I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story. You know, politics are in full swing, and so too is our fact-checking of political commercials. Last night, we took apart an attack ad aimed at Republican Joe Kent. He's trying to win Washington's 3rd Congressional District seat. Tonight, we're going to take a look at an attack ad aimed at the incumbent in that seat, Congresswoman Marie Gluesenkamp Perez, a Democrat. Is the ad accurate? We'll find out. It's our big story tonight. The race for the 3rd seat is definitely intense, and it's important. Here's a look at the map of the district. It's the dark area that covers southwest Washington. It goes north past Centralia and then over west all the way to the coast. And according to the respected Cook Political Report, the race is a toss-up. This graphic shows us that the district has voted Republican more than it's voted Democrat in the past. Still, in that last election, moderate Democrat Marie Gluesenkamp Perez beat the conservative Republican Joe Kent by 2,600 votes. Here's why this matters nationally. Republicans control the House of Representatives, but just barely. It's 221 members for Republicans and 214 for Democrats. Now, if Democrats can achieve a net gain of just 4 seats, they'll take control of the House. That's a huge deal when it comes to the balance of power on a national basis. So the 3rd district seat, this matchup is very important, not just for voters in the district, but also nationally. And that's why the National Republican Congressional Committee is pouring money into the race to try to take that seat back. Now, let's take a look at a recent attack ad that's aimed at Perez, paid for by that group, the National Republican Campaign Committee. They're the national group trying to elect more Republicans to the U.S. House. Here we go.
Marie Gluesenkamp Perez has ignored our border crisis.
Listen, like nobody stays awake at night worrying about the southern border.
Okay, this ad has been playing almost nonstop, and that's the opening salvo. The attack ad will build on that theme, trying to convince you that Gluesenkamp Perez is out of touch with the border issues and the drug crisis on our streets. Now, I tracked down that clip, and it's taken way out of context. So here it is on the YouTube version of the show Pod Save America, where it aired. It was recorded after Perez won her election to Congress. The host was asking how she did it in such a Republican district. Listen to this entire comment now.
Listen, like nobody stays awake at night worrying about the southern border. Like that's just not. People stay awake at night worrying that their kid is going to relapse, or that, you know, someone's going to drop out of school, or they're going to lose their house.
Okay, that was the whole comment. Now, when you hear the entire comment, it kind of changes the meaning, doesn't it? The ad left out important context. When we add back the context, it shows that Perez is convinced people care more about what's happening with their own family and in their own community than the national talking points being served up about the southern border. So I'm going to call that clip in the ad misleading.
Perez isn't worried. That's where the flood of fentanyl is coming from, and it's killing our kids.
Okay, well, we don't need to fact check that source. I believe all of those claims. They're accurate. Fentanyl is awful. Lots and lots of it's coming from Mexico. I did fact check it, but yeah, it's accurate. It's certainly killing our kids. But I've not found any statements from Perez saying that she's not worried about drugs coming into our communities, just the opposite. I found many where she said she is, and very concerned. Interestingly, by the way, this past February, she co-sponsored a bill that would tighten security at the border and require immigration officers to immediately detain and expel what they called inadmissible aliens. Okay, let's see a bit more of the ad.
But Perez sleeps easy in D.C., while overdoses here skyrocket.
Listen, like nobody stays awake at night worrying about the southern border.
Marie Gluesenkamp Perez won't fix this. She's too busy denying it.
This is an age-old sleight of hand. You start with a premise that's not accurate, and then you build on your premise. They're saying, well, if she says that no one stays awake worrying about the border, she must not care about drugs or about people overdosing and dying on our streets. Now, again, I have found many comments from Perez that she is deeply concerned about the impact fentanyl and other drugs are having on her community and our country. So I'm rating that entire statement as false. In fact, on her campaign site, it says that she believes in fighting the drug crisis through increased border security, stricter punishments for sale and possession, along with expanded access to treatment and rehab and job opportunities. So, all in all, I gotta say, Republican Congressional Campaign Committee, This is a very misleading ad. You should really try harder next time to find some legit policy that she believes in and you think is wrong. Otherwise, you're going to continue to look pretty darn silly trying to sell obvious falsehoods to the public. So what do you at home think about that? What do you think about this ad? Do you believe it when you first saw it, or did you learn anything tonight? Email us and let us know, will you? The address is thestory@kgw.com, or call and leave a voicemail. The number is 503-226-5090. Well, we kicked off our political ad fact check series last night, and you can find that segment on the KGW YouTube page. You should check it out. It's not bad. We'll have a few more for you next week as well, focused on Oregon's contentious 5th Congressional District. It's a matchup between incumbent Lori Chavez DeRemer and Democrat Janelle Bynum. Things are certainly heating up between the two in that race as well. But let's get to some of your feedback after last night's big story. We got this nice note from Kathy last night. Thank you for the campaign fact-finding. We need more of this. The climate is so confusing, hard to know who or what to believe. Thank you for shining the light. Well, you're welcome. And Rob told us, as a 71-year-old man, I remember when ads were about what the politician would do for you or not do about you, not about how big a crook the other person is. Now, many of you agree with what Ann wrote, counting the days until those blinking ads are gone. They are so repetitious and boring. Oh, wait. After the election season, there's, weeks and weeks of repetitious holiday sale ads. True. And we'll end with this gem from Ed.
As an atheist, I say, thank God for being able to record and fast forward through all of them. Otherwise, I would praise the Lord for the mute button on my remote.
All right, thanks, Ed. Not bad for an atheist. By the way, while we're talking about Washington's 3rd Congressional District candidates, the pair faced off in a debate last night in Longview. Investigative reporter Evan Watson was there and learned that there is one thing that both Gluesenkamp Perez and Kent agree on, that it's going to be a very tight race.
My number one priority before we start talking about defending other countries' borders is defend our nation's borders.
You can hear clearly that this is about partisan politics for him. It's about delivering a Republican majority. I'm not here for that. I'm here for us.
Representative Marie Gluesenkamp Perez and Joe Kent are locked in a rematch for Washington's 3rd Congressional District. Gluesenkamp Perez, a Democrat, beat her Republican challenger Kent by less than 3,000 votes in 2022. Both candidates expect a very tight race again.
Look, it's close. I mean, we don't take anything for granted. I think we're in a strong position, leaning heavily on what her actual voting record is and just really exposing that as much as we can. And then trying to drive turnout. We had low Republican turnout last time, so that's a big effort of ours.
I'm going to keep doing the same thing that I've always done, just like be myself, represent my community. But it's going to be a dogfight.
This race is drawing national attention and money, because voters could go either way.
The fact that this is such a competitive district makes it special because there's really not that many across the country.
Republicans hold a slim majority in the House of Representatives. Kent could solidify his party's advantage, and a presidential election year could help.
President Trump's done very well in this district historically. So we've got an opportunity to flip the seat and actually to give President Trump a Congress that's actually going to support his agenda, secure the border, stop the inflation, and really just change the trajectory of our country.
Gluesenkamp Perez points to her bipartisan voting record and endorsements from local law enforcement. She's often focused on hyper-local issues, like boosting the timber industry and emphasizing the trades and education. And she believes that's still the right strategy.
You do not get good policy without having people who have turned wrenches, who have changed diapers, who have driven trucks at the table writing legislation. We don't need more partisan hacks. We need more people who have run small businesses like I did before being elected to Congress.
Kent says he's also focused on his community, but that starts at a more macro level.
I think it's pretty safe for us to say, why are we worrying about table saw regulations when most Americans can't afford groceries and when we literally have toddlers that are dying from fentanyl overdoses after she voted to leave the southern border wide open?
Both candidates agree that President Biden's border policies have failed. They're calling for immigration law changes, and they both support gun rights. Gluesenkamp Perez adding that Democrats like her support the priorities of rural Americans.
I know that when we have real competition, when we have a real loyalty to rural communities, we can change national politics.
Evan Watson, KGW News.
By the way, both candidates appeared on KGW's Straight Talk with Laurel Porter 2 years ago, and they're going to do the same thing again in just 2 weeks from now. We'll be sure to give you a reminder as we get closer. And by the way, here at home, KGW and the Oregonian are partnering up to host a debate with the top 5 candidates for Portland City Mayor. And we want to hear from you. You can submit a video asking a question to the candidates, and we might just use that during the debate. You can email those videos to debate@kgw.com. I'd recommend keeping the video short, or it might be too big, too much data for your email. For more details on submitting a video, pick up your phone and scan that QR code on your screen. The debate is on Tuesday, October 15th at 6:30 p.m. You can watch it right here on KGW, and it will also be streaming for free on our app, KGW Plus. Well, we have a follow-up to a story now we first brought you about 3 months ago on June 25th that involved new proposed rules from the state of Oregon that would have required small dairies like Sarah King's to build out expensive waste treatment systems. Those systems do make sense for massive dairies with hundreds or even thousands of cows. But Sarah has 4 cows on 11 acres in Yamhill County. She told me back then that she worried about the cost of this new rule.
It could have been anywhere between $15,000 all the way easily up to $100,000 or more, depending on the level of infrastructure that they're going to require from us.
Yeah, so that's a big hit. So she and other small dairy operators with cows or goats sued in federal court with the help of a group called the Institute for Justice. They argued that the new rules were not constitutional, in part because they were actually requested by large operations in the Oregon dairy industry. Well, the update is Sarah won the battle. Last week, the Oregon Department of Agriculture put out new rules on dairy operations with the unglamorous heading, ODA announces final Senate Bill 85 rules. The key portion states that a confined animal feeding operation, or CAFO, is an operation that engages in the feeding or holding of animals in buildings, pens, or lots not sustaining vegetative growth in the normal growing season for 12 hours or more per day for more than 120 days in a 12-month period. It's a lot of details there, but the good news is Sarah and many other small operators do not qualify under that, so they don't have to create those expensive waste treatment systems.
I'm both thrilled and determined, really. I think the thing I'm most thrilled about is that we were able to influence and really help shape the focus of the policy work that has come out as part of SB 85 around what was really the intention in the first place, which was environmental protection. And we were able to help connect the dots when it came to what is the intention versus the practical application of the things that were being considered in the moment, and really get clear about what does that mean for farms of our size, small scale farms in this case, and how can we, who are already doing our best work to take environmental protection measures, continue to do the thing that is our #1 goal, which is manage our land, animals in a healthy and environmentally considerate way, and serve our communities in the way that they need. So very excited about that.
By the way, her lawyer at the Institute for Justice says it's the right outcome for small farms in Oregon.
One of the things that we were always trying to accomplish with this lawsuit is to make sure that small farms can stay small farms, and that the small farming way of life is something that stays legal and is promoted both in Oregon and nationwide. What the state did essentially threatened the existence of small farmers, not just my clients, but all small farmers throughout the state of Oregon. I'm glad that they rethought their rules. It's a shame it took a constitutional lawsuit for them to do it. But at the end of the day, I think what's most important here is that small farmers get to continue to be small farmers, and we're happy that we got the result that we did.
Congratulations, all you small farmers. Coming up next on the story, today, Governor Tina Kotek laid out progress and future goals when it comes to the homeless crisis in our state. Blair Best joins me in studio to talk about the governor's comments on tents and tarps and distributing them, as well as possible changes in Salem when it comes to a state law on removing homeless camps. That's all next when the story returns. All right, now let's talk about the homeless crisis in Oregon. Today, Governor Tina Kotek gave an update on progress and her future plans to address the crisis. As far as what's been done so far with Kotek in office, a bit of a mixed bag, but there is some progress to report. Blair Best was in Salem today at the news conference. She joins me in the studio. Blair, this is the first time we've heard from the governor about homelessness in quite a while.
Yeah, that's right. And we all know that homelessness has been a top priority for the governor since she took office. She declared a homelessness state of emergency on her first day as governor and then extended that state of emergency indefinitely back in January. Today, she released an online dashboard, and here's what that looks like. Under the governor's emergency initiative between January and June of this year, nearly 3,000 people were prevented from sleeping on the streets and more than 500 people have been housed, including 72 here in Multnomah County. The goal for Multnomah County was 100. Now, the data also shows, and here's where it gets interesting, that no one was housed in several counties under this initiative, including Clackamas and Washington. And here's what the governor had to say about that.
We are reassessing on a regular basis with all of our communities to hit their goals. They have goals for the end of the biennium, and we're going to do everything to help them and make sure they understand they need to hit those goals.
Now, the governor today also talked of goals she's hoping to hit by the end of next year. And here are the major takeaways of that. 1,700 new shelter beds will open across Oregon. More than 2,000 people will get off the streets. 24,000 people will be prevented from becoming homeless. And nearly 3,000 new affordable housing units will open.
Those numbers are real numbers. Those are real people's lives. That is how government is coming together from top to bottom to make progress here in Oregon. This is not a victory lap. This is not a mission accomplished moment. This is a progress point.
All right, so good that you were able to talk to the governor and she's able to tout some of her success. What about, did she talk about the camping ban, especially in light of the Supreme Court ruling involving Grants Pass?
She did, and obviously we have covered that extensively here in Portland. Mayor Ted Wheeler has even called on the governor in the past, asking her to change that state law that requires cities like Portland to only remove camps when there's available shelter. Mayor Wheeler has said in the past that that is making it difficult for Portland to clean up our streets. And today, Governor Kotek said she would listen to proposals for maybe changing that state law.
If people want to come to the legislature and have conversations about changing the law, I will certainly review those. I think people need to say what they want to change before I can have any kind of reaction to it.
Now, I also asked the governor today about tent and tarp distribution. Some Portland officials have tried to limit those harm reduction efforts in the past, while many homeless people have said those supplies are crucial to surviving on the streets.
Briefly back to tents and tarps, you mentioned that you approve of them being handed out during extreme weather. Do you approve of taxpayer dollars being spent on tent and tarps handed out any time of the year?
I support keeping people alive.
And you believe tents and tarps keep people alive?
Sometimes that's what people need. The ultimate goal is not the tent and tarp. That is a mechanism to get folks. You build a relationship like, are you safe and secure today? Great, let's get you into a shelter. Are you in a shelter? Are you ready for stability? Let's get you into housing. This is a continuum conversation. I think where we go wrong if we only think it is about the tent and tarp. That is the beginning part of getting folks into stability, and that is really a local decision, depending on what. I would rather have folks have the outreach to get folks in the shelter.
Okay, so basically, yes, she does approve of spending taxpayer dollars to hand out tents and tarps to homeless people. And here in Multnomah County, that's 700,000 taxpayer dollars that are in this year's budget for those harm reduction supplies. And from my time on the streets, I do hear from homeless people that they are life-saving. They give them a sense of home. That is until the city goes and removes those same supplies, also using taxpayer dollars. I've also seen firsthand many people use the tents to, use drugs and other illegal, dangerous behavior.
Sure, and a lot of fires come from those tents and tarps too, and people get hurt, and it's all kinds of property issues. Complicated situation.
Very controversial.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Blair. Great update. Appreciate it. To the state of Washington now, where change is underway when it comes to license plates there. In some parts of the Evergreen State, people have been waiting months, like 4 months, for real plates to arrive, meaning they're stuck with those temporary paper ones. There are a number of reasons for the delays, but the good news is the long wait times appear to be disappearing soon. Drew Mickelson explains.
If you've purchased a car recently, odds are you've had to use paper temporary license plates for months in some cases. But the state says it has found a way to smooth out the process.
We have 2 printers that are printing literally every plate in the state of Washington for us.
The state's license plates come from Walla Walla, inside the state penitentiary to be exact. The facility and its inmate employees fired back up again this summer.
Right now we're playing a little bit of catch up, but we will get there.
And to speed things up, the state has decided to skip a step. Starting in October, the plates will no longer be embossed, so the letters and numbers won't be raised. With the backlog, car owners have been issued paper license plates that have to be renewed every 2 months, frustrating drivers like Yakima's Stephen Hall, who waited more than 4 months for his truck's new plates. What caused this backlog?
During the pandemic, there was supply chain issues with getting materials for the plate, and then that was followed by production issues at DOC.
Penitentiary got new equipment, but there weren't enough inmates qualified to run it until this summer. With it back online and the process speeding up, the state hopes to be all caught up by Thanksgiving.
We're hoping that our customers will be relieved that they finally have their plate and that they don't have to keep going to our vehicle licensing offices and getting another temporary after the 60 days.
Yeah, that would be a pain. 28 other states use non-embossed plates, so we'll see if Washington decides to keep it that way after they catch up on the backlog. I kind of hope they go back. But if you have embossed plates or raised plates now in Washington, don't worry. You don't have to change them. You don't have to take them back. Hey, that's the end of our show. Thanks so much for watching. And remember, the story, our collective story, that never ends. For those of you watching online, we'll see you next time, however you find us. For the rest of you watching live, the good stuff's coming your way next. And I'll see all of you right back here tomorrow night at 6:30.